Alright, if you clicked on this video, you're probably here trying to find out more about the Canon EOS 2000D. Either you are looking to buy one and you want to get more info on it, or you've already bought one and you want to learn a little bit more about it. So in this video, that's what we're going to talk about. Cue intro. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the least professional channel on YouTube. How's everybody doing today? So today we're going to talk a little bit about my camera, the Canon EOS 2000D. So I've had this camera for about 2 months now. I ordered it back in May off of Amazon. I got a whole kit, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the camera itself, what the kit came with, all that kind of stuff. So stick around for that. Alright, so this is the Canon EOS 2000D. It's released in 2018. It's also known as the EOS Rebel T7 in the US. And the EOS Kiss X90 in Japan. It has a 24.1 megapixel, 22.3 by 14.9 millimeter CMOS sensor. It has a crop factor of 1.61. Now the crop factor, if you don't know, just basically means that whenever you have a lens on there, whatever that lens says that it's at, so if it says it's at 35 millimeters, you multiply that by the crop factor to get the actual millimeters based on the 35 millimeter film. Much more complicated than that. I could do an entire video on crop factor, but for the purposes of this, you just need to know it's 1.6 crop factor. The ISO range on this is 100 to 6400 ISO. Max shutter speed is 1/4000th of a second, and the minimum shutter speed is 30 seconds, which means you can have the shutter open for 30 seconds when you're capturing in low light situations if you want to shoot for stars, that kind of stuff. On the back here, it's got a 3-inch LCD screen. It can shoot video at 1080p, 30 frames per second, 25 frames per second, or 24 frames per second. It has a built-in microphone. You cannot connect an external microphone to this camera, so you're stuck with the built-in microphone. The built-in microphone's okay, but it's not great, especially if you're capturing outside. So this is the video on the Canon EOS 2000D. I'm capturing the video and the audio both from the camera. So since there's no external microphone, the audio is not quite as good. It still captures the audio, it's just not the best audio in the world. The battery on this thing is a lithium-ion LP E310. I have to refer to my notes, I can't remember all of this. It is rechargeable, and it does last quite a while. I don't do a lot of video on this. I've done all photography, pictures, that kind of stuff, and typically I can go an entire day of shooting without having to replace the battery. I did get 2 additional batteries just in case, because if I'm out longer, if I keep it on or forget to turn it off, that kind of thing, it will time out after a while. So you don't have to worry too much about the battery draining, but it will drain the battery down slowly over time, especially if you're using the LCD screen to capture instead of looking through the eyepiece. So my thoughts on the Canon EOS 2000D. I've had it now for about 2 months. Like I said, I got it back in May. I ordered it from Amazon. It was part of a larger kit. It was kind of a beginner photography kit, so it came with a whole bunch of stuff. It was about $500 on Amazon, a little over 500. I think it's like 509. And I'll link to that kit down in the description below in case you're looking at possibly getting this camera so you can see what all it comes with. I'll also throw a list of everything that it comes with up here on the screen. It's quite an extensive list. There's a lot of stuff that it comes with. So you got to keep in mind that you're not just paying for the camera when you buy that. You're paying for all the extra stuff that comes with it as well. So some of the stuff that it comes with in the kit is things like this tulip-shaped lens hood cover right here. And all the stuff that it comes with actually will screw right onto the front of whatever lens you have. Canon's usually pretty good about that kind of stuff. So it screws right on there. This thing is more for bright sunny days when the sun's coming in at an angle, that kind of stuff. It can be helpful if the sun's coming in at an angle. I don't use it a whole lot, and it doesn't do like there's some cameras out there where it'll actually go in over the top of the lens and stay there. This one doesn't do that because it doesn't snap, so that's something to keep in mind. You also get this SD card holder. This was extremely helpful. I only had the one SD card when I got the camera because it does come with a 64 gigabyte SD card, but I've bought a few more since then, especially for video and that kind of stuff, so it's nice to have this little case right here. Additionally, it comes with this little kit right here. So this is a multi-coated 3-piece filter kit. These are some basic filters. So there's a UV protection filter. It comes with this little pamphlet right here that tells you about each of the filters. CPL circular polarized filter. Basically what that lets you do is you can turn it And if you are looking at, for instance, water, you're taking a picture over water, you can get rid of the reflections on the water by turning it to angle where the polarizing is. It also comes with a fluorescent filter, so more for indoor fluorescent light situations. So a filter that's great for that kind of stuff. So I haven't used any of these filters yet. I did use the polarized filter a couple of times just to see how it worked, but I haven't really used them for any of my actual photography. One of the other things that it comes with is actually on my telephoto lens here. So this right here is a UV filter lens. So basically filters out the UV light. I keep this on here primarily because it doesn't really hurt the image under any lighting conditions, and it's a good way to cover up and keep the actual lens safe. So if I hit something with it, or if I get water on it, that kind of thing, I'm going to get it on the filter as opposed to the actual lens, so it makes it a lot easier to keep it clean, and it also prevents me from cracking it accidentally. Okay, so a couple other things that this camera comes with this kit. So this is a 0.45 times wide angle lens. So you can attach this, and it screws on just like the filters do to the actual end of the lens itself. So they're not actual lenses, they enhance the lens, you might say. So the wide angle lens will let you get a wider shot with any lens. I've tried it with the kit lens that came with it. I've also tried it with the telephoto lens. Both seem to be fine with it. And then this one right here is a telephoto lens. This one is a 2x zoom. You can adjust the zoom on it, and when I tried it with my actual telephoto lens, there seemed to be some issues there, but I was able to use it with the 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens that came with the camera, and that actually worked out really well. That was before I got the telephoto lens. Now that I have the telephoto lens, I don't really use it as much. And then the last couple things that I want to talk about come with the kit, with the camera, before we get into more about the camera itself. So it comes with this tripod right here. This is kind of it's not really a very sturdy tripod. I used it for a while. Now it just kind of sits at home. I use it mostly for my lighting when I do streams and that kind of stuff. It's decent as a starter tripod. It can hold the camera's weight. It even extends to the neck tube, which I didn't know when I first got it. I had to bend down real low to actually look through the eyepiece. Didn't realize for the longest time this actually extends. So keep that in mind if you do get this kit. This does get taller. It goes up to about 5.5 feet or so. So it's not the tallest tripod in the world, but if you don't have another tripod, it works perfect. And then the last thing right here, this was my old bag before I got the backpack that I actually highlighted in a previous video. This bag right here, it was decent. It fit everything that I got initially. I was able to carry it around, didn't have any problems with it. The one thing was it didn't really have any place to put the tripod, to attach the tripod to, so I'd have to carry the tripod separately. There was a case for the tripod, but it wasn't the greatest in the world. And it kind of gets annoying after a while carrying this thing around, especially because you have it slung over your back if you need to access anything. You have things buried down inside, whereas the backpack I've got now, much, much better. But this does do a great job when you first get the whole setup. It fits everything in just fine. And it's actually a really sturdy bag. Like, I'll probably use it in the future as I get more stuff and I need to carry stuff around depending on different trips and stuff that I take. But for now, I don't really need it as much, but it is an awesome bag. Alright, so that brings us back to the camera itself. So my thoughts on the camera itself. I've used it in low light situations, I've used it in really bright situations, I've gotten some great pictures out of it. When I first got it, for the first probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, I exclusively used the kit lens. Now this kit lens that it comes with is an 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens. It zooms up to 55 millimeters. It's a good lens. The images were coming out sharp, everything looked fine. Any problems that I had with it, and I'll highlight this a little bit more later, but any problems I had with it were usually user error as far as when the images came out. So it takes a lot of practice and time. Equipment's not always the problem, so keep that in mind, and we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. Let's get down to talking about how this thing actually works, because if you've gone out, let's say you've bought this camera already, but you're not really sure about it, or maybe you're thinking about getting another lens, but you don't really know much about the camera itself. So let's talk a little bit about that real quick. So like I said before, the kit lens that comes with the camera is 18 to 55 millimeters. If you want to switch out the kit lens, there's actually a button. You should be able to see it right there. So you press that button down. It took me a while to figure out what that button was for because I didn't really swap out lenses. But if you press that button down and twist the lens, you'll find it pops right out. Now you got to be careful not to get anything down inside there itself, because right there you can see the mirror. So you want to make sure to try to keep it angled down and make sure you don't get anything actually inside of that. So I've got the telephoto lens here, so I'm going to put that on. So you'll see that there's these two little white dots. So there's a white dot right there, and that's a little harder to see, but you can see that white dot right there. So you line those white dots up, twist until you hear it click, and now it's on there. So that's simple enough. Anytime that you're switching out lenses, real quick, real easy, not a problem at all. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit about the camera itself and the settings and the screen. Okay, so when you first turn on the camera, you're going to see this screen right here. So this is the 3-inch LCD screen. If you hit the Q button here, that's going to turn on the ability to switch between different settings. If the settings don't mean much to you, you need to check out some of my other videos where I talk a little bit about shutter speed, aperture, ISO, which are the top 3 settings there, because those will go a little bit more in depth. Now if you press this button right here, that's going to switch you between looking through the eye hole mode here and actually seeing on the screen what you're looking at. So I can adjust the camera, I can adjust where we're looking here. When it's brighter outside, it can be more difficult to see that screen. It gets kind of bright, but when it's a real bright sunshine shining down on it, it can be really difficult to really make out what's on it. So I'll usually use the eyepiece when I'm shooting, especially in the daytime. For night shots, darker scenes, that kind of stuff, the screen works perfect for that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind, but the screen will also drain your battery, so that's where it's a good situation to have a spare battery with you, because that will run your battery out real quick if you're shooting a lot during a day. So if you're looking at quick settings and you want to change something on the fly, right now I've got the shutter speed set to 1/500. I can change that to 1/400. It's all using this little wheel right here. So changing that will move whatever you're trying to adjust. Right now, standard it's sitting on, because I've got it in manual mode, so standard it's sitting on shutter speed. If you are on manual mode and you hold this button down right here, that's going to let you adjust your aperture. So you can move your aperture up and down, whatever you need to do there. There's also some quick function buttons right here. So you can press that for ISO, and that gives you the ISO menu. You can press set to set whatever you want to set to it. You can press the autofocus mode right there. That'll allow you to change the autofocus mode. You got the timer button right there, real quick, to adjust the timing. And the white balance. So you can change the white balance depending on the situation that you're in. I usually just leave it on auto though. The menu, I don't want to get too deep into the menu because that's not really what this video is about, but there is a lot of stuff in the menu here. A lot of different settings to change. I will go over all of these settings at some point just because I want to cover as much of this as possible, but this is more of a review of the camera. So, but it kind of gives you an idea of what all is in here. The custom functions button I do want to talk about for a minute though, because by default for this camera, like most other cameras, the way that you focus it is by pointing it at whatever you want to focus at and holding the shutter button down halfway. Now most of the time, and that's how I used it when I first started getting used to it, because it's not that difficult. You hold it down just a little bit, and then whenever you're ready you just press it the rest of the way down and it'll take the shot. Where I found that becomes a problem is there'll be times that I'll be trying to take some quick shots and they'll all have the same, I want to keep the same focus between them. But if I'm taking a shot and then I turn the camera a little bit and I go to take another shot, even if you're not trying to half press it down, you half press it on the way to actually pressing the shutter. So sometimes what it will do is it will try to refocus if you're not on the exact same focus point, and that can cause some blur in the images, so it can be a little bit of a pain. What I've done to make this a lot simpler is I moved the focus button to this right here. This button back here, when you hold it down, when you're aiming at something, is what will focus it. And now you can take a picture, and whatever you're focused on will stay focused. And you can keep that same focus through multiple pictures. You don't have to worry about it. The way to do that is by going to the custom functions right here. And if you go over to number 8, you see right there how I've got that set as the AF or AE lock / AF. That's this button up here. So you have to go over to number 8 in the custom functions menu, and you'll see right there it's the Operation Other Shutter AE lock button. So that's the one that you want to look at just in case they've changed it. So you select that, you select number 1, and then when you go back in, I can switch it over right here. So So you can see when you press that, it's going to start to right there. So now it's focused on those trees back there. So all I did was press that right there. And now if I wanted to take this picture, I just snap the shot. Just like that. And it doesn't autofocus. So that's something to keep in mind with the menus. One of the biggest reasons I didn't set that for the longest time was because anytime I tried to find a video that would show me how to set that or find some information on how to set that, it wasn't clear, it wasn't easy to understand. So I wanted to add that in because that was a really important one to me when I figured out what that function was. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. So I want to add that in just in case you do wind up buying one of these or any Canon camera, because the Canon cameras all have the same kind of menu, the same software. So if you get a Canon camera of any kind, you should find a setting like that in there where you can change the autofocus. So the next thing I want to talk about when it comes to this camera is the actual battery slot and the SD card slot. So you'll see the bottom of the camera right here, if it'll focus correctly. You got this little button right here. So if you clip that, you can open it right up there. So you'll find that you got the battery in here. There's a little button in there that'll pop right out. So that's the actual battery. And then you got the SD card that sits right behind the battery. You can pop that right out. The SD card, pretty simple when it goes back in. It can be a little difficult to kind of figure it out at first, but usually the side with the gold strip right there, that's going to be facing the front of the camera, so you'll be able to actually read the memory card as you're putting it in there, and it just pops right in. As far as the battery is concerned, there's only one way to stick the battery in. So if I try to stick the battery in the wrong way, it won't let me. Just turn it around, pop it in, and you'll see right there, it snaps in place. Done. So before we get on to my final thoughts, we'll take a minute to say thank you for watching. I don't usually do reviews like this, but I've had this camera for a couple of months, and so I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit, because I know when I first started and I was debating whether to buy a camera or what camera to buy, I wanted something like this that would have given me some of this information. The biggest thing for me, especially at first, when I bought the camera and shortly after decided I wanted to start trying to do YouTube stuff, and I didn't know before I bought the camera that it doesn't actually let you plug in an external mic, and I couldn't really find any good information on that out there. So I wanted to make sure to share that, just because it was so difficult for me to figure out, and just in case it's difficult for you, that way you know. So if you want to buy this for video, just know that the external mic, you're not going to be able to connect one. You're going to be stuck with the built-in microphone. If you're buying it for pictures, it works great for pictures. So if this video has been helpful to you so far, it would be helpful to me if you would hit the thumbs up button. Really appreciate that. I'm still learning all of this YouTube stuff, still learning how to make these videos and get things sorted out right, and trying to share the information. The whole point of the channel is kind of sharing information about photography as I learn it, for other people that are in the same situation. The biggest problem that I've seen with other photography channels is that a lot of the times they are seasoned professionals who have been doing it for a long time. They've made it their life's work, and sometimes when you get to that point, you've been doing it for that long, it can be really easy to kind of forget what it was like to be a new photographer when you were just starting out. And especially nowadays, because everything's so digital now, and it's so difficult to figure out what's the right camera. Can I use just my phone? Do I need to buy an actual camera? So trying to figure all that kind of stuff out can be really difficult. And so that's what I'm trying to help people to get over, that kind of stuff, the problems that I had when I first started. And if I can help even one person, that means the world to me. That's the whole goal, is just to help at least one person. So in closing, I would say this is a good beginner camera. If you're just starting out, if you're deciding that, you know, I really want to buy a camera, I'm trying to find a good camera, what would be good for a beginner, this is a good beginner camera. That being said, if you are just starting out and you're not sure yet about whether you want to buy a camera, and you have a camera phone, most camera phones nowadays, whether it's an iPhone, an Android like the Samsung or the Google, I've got a Google Pixel 5, which was what I was shooting pictures on before I bought this. It's important to get that kind of stuff, and like I mentioned earlier, hardware is only a small piece of the puzzle. I would say hardware in and of itself is about 10% of photography. The other 90% of photography is just learning the basics. So learning about the exposure triangle, learning about composition and lighting, and the best angles to shoot things at. If you're doing all of that right, it doesn't matter if you're shooting it on a phone, or if you're shooting it on a Canon EOS 2000D, or if you have a more expensive camera. The amount you've paid for the camera doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have better images if you don't know the fundamentals. So learn the fundamentals. If all you have right now is a camera phone, get out there and take pictures. Learn the fundamentals with the camera phone. If you want to invest, if you're at the point where you want to invest in a good beginner camera, I would highly suggest the Canon EOS 2000D. I'm not affiliated with them, I'm not sponsored or any of that kind of stuff, but from my experience in using it the past couple of months, I would say it's an excellent camera. It's very easy to understand. There's not a whole lot that you have to do to get up and running with it. And I will put a link in the description below to the actual set that I bought, in case you're interested in that. Just because of all the extra stuff that comes with it, it makes it a lot easier rather than having to go out there and buy all this stuff separately, so that you can at least have things like the tripod, like the carrying case, right off the bat. As for that price point, for the actual kit itself and everything that comes with it, to me, that $500 was money well spent. Now, that's going to vary by person. If you don't have it, or if you aren't really that interested in doing photography kind of stuff, $500 might be way too much. It might be over your budget or whatever, but to me, that was worth it, because when I was shooting with my Google Pixel 5, I was getting some really good images, but there was so much that I wanted to do that I couldn't do with that, and the pictures that I wanted to get weren't coming out the way I wanted them to. So that's why I started looking into getting a camera like this in the first place. But that being said, I think I've covered just about everything that I've been to cover. I actually wrote out a whole bulleted list this time, so I'm trying to get better at doing that kind of stuff. If this video was helpful for you, like I said before, leave a thumbs up. That lets me know that you found the video helpful and that I did something right. Let me know in the comments where you think I can improve. I'm always trying to get better, whether it's at my photography, whether it's at videography here with all this YouTube stuff. So learning all of that and the editing and all that kind of stuff. So let me know once you've seen the video, like where can I improve? Give me a point, whether it's a video like this or just a general video. If you've seen other videos on my channel, give me a point of improvement. So that's one thing I would ask of you. I also want to say, if this is the first time that you're visiting my channel, thank you for clicking on the video. I hope that it was helpful to you. Go check out some of my other videos as well. I do photography stuff on the regular. I'm branching off with a little bit of vlog stuff as well, so kind of encompassing things. The whole point of the channel is obviously photography, but also to kind of share my journey and share some of my thoughts and things as I go along the way. If you have watched other videos and you're not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That really helps me out. A smaller channel, so I've only, right now, as of this recording, I have 22 subscribers, and every single one of them means the world to me. So if you could hit the subscribe button, that really, it really pumps me up to see that in the morning when I wake up and see, oh my God, I got another subscriber. It matters a lot more than, I know there's YouTubers out there with 10 million subscribers, and one extra subscriber doesn't really matter to them. It matters the world to me. So I think that's going to do it for this one. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out and check out my channel. Let me know what you think about the EOS 2000D as well, now that you've kind of seen it in action. And I'll put some of the pictures that I took today at the cemetery at the end of the video here. So once again, thank you all for watching, and everybody have a great day.